It's me, Denny Carter from Rotoworld and NBC Sports, coming at you for a Q&A. We're doing a late August Q&A, always popular with the folks because obviously this is the time of year when everybody's on fire for fantasy football. This dwindles, unfortunately, by late September when a lot of people realize their teams are totally cooked because they didn't log on to rotoworld.com enough and grind the news and get an edge on their fantasy league mates. I get it. I used to be there. I used to be one of you. And then I started reading rotoworld.com, and I've never lost a fantasy championship ever since. 12 years in a row, 112 leagues overall, championships across the board. Never lost. Truly incredible. I have a spreadsheet, documenting this if you all want to check it out. It is, of course, analytics. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to start with some preseason takeaways, both from my own research, my own grinding, and also from Kyle Dvorak, my favorite Zoomer on planet Earth, and of course, co-host of the Rotoworld Football Show, along with Patrick G. Doherty IV. Actually, that's not his middle initial. I can confirm by thinking about it, that's not his middle initial. But we love our RotoPat, we love our Kyle, and Kyle did a piece that's on Rotoworld right now, 10 takeaways from week 3 of the preseason, focused on, of course, Harold Fannin, who I'm going to mention in a minute, Marvin Mims, among others. But really, it's I would call it essential reading for those who are prepping for their fantasy drafts, because although preseason usage is not everything, and there are situations where a guy's preseason usage kind of tricks us into either liking this player too much or kind of dismissing him. Oh, he's not being used with the first team. He only ran this percent of routes on, the starting quarterbacks, dropbacks, and this and that. And the coaches seem cool on him. And then he comes out in week 1, and, if he's a receiver, he sees 10 targets. And we say, where was this? Where was this, beat writers, in the preseason, in training camp? So why don't you, DJ Mac is in the chat. Hi, DJ. And he's saying he wants me to prove that I have won 112 fantasy championships in a row. And I will. I'll prove it. I'll prove it in the next 2 weeks. I'm gonna put that out. Okay, you just keep it locked in to my socials, to the Rotoworld Football Show. I'm gonna prove it. But I appreciate you trying to keep me accountable. It's important. So anyway, I'm going to start with a lot of preseason usage stuff, which of course can be very helpful. I'm also going to talk about some positive rushing environments. This is something that I wrote about last summer, headed into the season, and it really kind of turned me on to some backfields that did quite well last year. And by that, I mean, drafting like the RB2s in those backfields in case the starter goes down, because I'm the 0 RB guy. All right. It's actually not a bit. I actually do 0 RB in almost every draft I do. Although I did go on Chris Harris's show a few weeks ago, and I felt like it was kind of a psyop because it was a standard scoring league, right? So like no PPR, not even half PPR. And I believe you could only start 3 receivers max, right? So this is like my nightmare league settings. So I started my draft with like Bucky, Irving, and like Jonathan Taylor, I think. It's the first time I've taken 2 running backs to start a draft since college. And folks, for me, college, not exactly yesterday. Not exactly, I would say more like 20 years ago. Not yesterday's. So that was something. But mostly I do 0 RB. I have a piece coming out tomorrow on Rotoworld It's kind of my big 0 RB piece where I profile and highlight running backs who you should target in the middle rounds and the late rounds if you are going to go the 0 RB route. If you're brave enough, if you have what it takes. And not everyone does. Look, some people enter fantasy football leagues to finish exactly in 5th place every year. And this is okay. I finished just outside of the playoffs, or maybe if 6 teams getting split, I got into the playoffs. I got blown out in the first week, but overall a successful season for me. If that's your thing, if that's what you want to do not draft 0 RB. Now, if you want to win, try 0 RB. If you're also okay with finishing 11th or 12th, draft 0 RB. This is a high variance situation, a high variance drafting style and strategy. So just think about it. All right, I'm looking at your questions. They're looking good. Keep them coming. I will get to them eventually. Thank you for joining the stream. All right, let's start with some preseason usage information. All right, so let's start with the Bears real quick, because I think this is noteworthy, and Kyle Dvorak mentioned this in his 10 takeaways piece, which you can find on Rotoworld. So Coleston Loveland ran a route on 13 of 17 Kayla Williams dropbacks in the Bears' final preseason game. This came despite Cole Kmet, the old veteran, 43 years old now. No, I'm kidding. He's probably like 26. Getting the start, actually. So Kmet started the game for the Bears. 13 of 17, as Kyle mentions, not exactly an elite route rate. I don't think it's that bad, though. If Loveland can start the season running like 70% of the routes, I think that's good. I think that's a positive sign that they want to use him. I mean, also, huge draft capital invested in Loveland. He also kind of looks like a receiver to me, so I can't imagine that the Bears are going to be asking him to block all that much, which we love. We do not like when a tight end is a good blocker, because then that's what they're asked to do, aka George Kittle. So I think Loveland to start the season might be a little iffy for if you're thinking about starting him in a 12-team league. I think he's still a good best ball pick if you're still doing that sort of thing, which I am very much. But you might want to just see how things go to start the season for Loveland. On the other side, not the other side, same side, the Bears, Luther Burden, fellow rookie. He played 1 snap with the Bears starters this past week. So 1 snap with Caleb Williams' offense. I agree with Kyle in saying that Burden is not a playable option in week 1. Just to focus on what's ahead of us here. I looked into it strongly, and Burden was targeted on only 12% of his preseason pass routes. I don't have to tell you that's pretty low. Lower than I could have imagined, considering, and I'm not dismissing Burden, by the way. We had let me finish this thought real quick, and then I'm going to get to Pat Kyren. Luther Burden in college was an incredible target commander. Okay, 1 season in college, he had a target per route run of over 30%. That's remarkable. Okay, that's like something that's like a box checked as far as like college profile goes, right? I like Burden. All right, now to Pat Kyren. He came on the Rotoworld Football Show a few weeks ago, and he said he's drafting Burden right now at a depressed ADP because he believes, as I do, that Burden has something of a path to being the wide receiver 1 in Chicago. I mean, who does he have to pass? DJ Moore, who is not really beloved by Ben Johnson and the Bears coaching staff. I'm not saying that, that they're not going to use DJ Moore. Of course they are. I mean, they're paying him an awful lot of money not to use him. And DJ Moore is probably good. He has maybe an attitude situation, which Ben Johnson has touched on a few times actually this offseason, which is a little concerning. And then Roman Dunze, who, you know, he's a downfield guy. He'll be volatile for fantasy purposes. But this Ben Johnson offense is going to be predicated on screens, okay? All these guys talked about all offseason, screens. We're going to do screens. We're going to do screens, wide receiver screens, running back, tight end, everything. Everything's going to be a screen. Caleb Williams was actually really good on screen passes last year. It was the only thing he was good at last year. And Luther Burden was a screen merchant in college. I'm trying to connect the pieces for you. Luther Burden should still be drafted in all 12-team leagues and definitely not dumped if he only runs like 30% of the routes in week 1 and sees 3 targets or something, okay? Just hold your horses. As the kids say, the Zoomers are constantly, hold your horses this, hold your horses that. So I'm not too worried, but it has not been a great season for Luther Burden. I'm going to go to tight ends real quick as far as preseason usage. Excuse me. I needed a sip of the weakest coffee ever made. My wife hates it. I enjoy it. So Chig Okonkwo, the Titans starting tight end, who I'm just saying, I've been talking about Chig Okonkwo on the Rotoworld football show for literally months, for like 90 days straight. And every time I even mention his name, Kyle and Pat threaten to cut my mic, okay, and censor me. I won't be censored. I wasn't censored then. I won't be censored now. And I feel vindicated going into the regular season because Chig Okonkwo during the preseason ran exclusively with the first team offense for Tennessee. You look at his profile, his targets per route run over his career, 3 years, 19%. Nothing to write home about. You're not going to write home about that. It's also not bad for a tight end, I'll say. But he ended hot last year. And my guy, Matt Harmon at Reception Perception, which you should check out, big on Chig. Okay. I'm also big on Chig as a late round guy. Don't get crazy. Okay. You're not drafting him over Mark Andrews or TJ Hawkinson or anything. Relax. But he had a really good closing 5 or 6 weeks of last year. I looked at his final 5 games of last season with Mason Rudolph at the helm in Tennessee rather than Will Levis, probably the worst quarterback in the NFL. Over the final 5 games, Chig Okonkwo was targeted on 26.5% of his pass routes. It's really strong. Like, that's strong for like a wide receiver, much less a tight end. I feel like he's a slam dunk to like run every route in this Titans offense to benefit from Cam Ward lifting all boats here. Ridley, Iomaner, my guy Tyler Lockett. Okay. The Zoomers are dismissing this. They're saying, no, he's too old. The Zoomers don't even know who Tyler Lockett is. Millennials, you listen to me. You remember Tyler Lockett. He's still in the NFL. I believe he's going to be fun with Cam Ward this year. So Chig is definitely a late round dart throw. And then, yes, the other tight end I wanted to mention was Harold Fannin. Fresh off the greatest, most productive, most prolific tight end season in college football history. Not an exaggeration. Okay. Like truly insane numbers, never before seen efficiency metrics for a tight end. Crazy stuff at a Bowling Green. And the Browns, which are they specialize in hyper athletic tight ends, and they really know how to identify tight ends. Kevin Stefanski does. I should say good tight ends. They drafted Harold Fannin, and so Fannin is a fantastic best ball pick because if and when he sees action in this offense, he has a chance to blow up. If something happens, I saw this kind of whispered about the other day. If the Browns season tanks and the Browns think they can get value for trading David Njoku around the trade deadline, they go ahead and do that and get rid of Njoku, I mean, Harold Fannin steps up and becomes an elite fantasy option. Let me read to you about his about Fannin's preseason usage. This is from Dwayne McFarland of Fantasy Life. So first of all, Njoku played this past week, week 3 in the preseason. He played in the first quarter, played 80% of the snaps, ran 60% of the routes, was targeted on 33% of his pass routes. Fannin, with Njoku on the field, also ran 60% of the routes, was also targeted on 1/3 of his pass routes. It's really strong. I mean, and it makes sense if you look at Harold Fannin's profile. A guy who just knows how to get open and is very productive after the catch, like Njoku. Now, I'm not saying that you're drafting Harold Fannin late in traditional redraft leagues and saying, oh, I'm plugging this guy in. Okay. He's still the tight end 2 for Cleveland. Like I'm not going to try to trick you into thinking that Njoku is not a thing. In fact, Njoku is one of my most drafted players because, excuse me, I think the Browns will be very pass heavy. And Njoku, and I mentioned this on Rotoworld Football Show the other day, had crazy numbers. He was like 10th in the whole league, not just in tight ends, in the whole league in targets over Joe Flacco's starting run with the Browns 2 years ago. Joe Flacco loves Njoku. I love Njoku. That's math. It's analytics, however you want to say it. So I'm all about Njoku, but Fannin in deeper leagues should be stashed. And especially guys, if you're in a tight end premium league, in other words, a league where you get 1.5 points for a tight end reception, which I hate, by the way. It's the worst. It's the worst. It's like, let's make this dumb position the most important. That's what tight end premium is. But Fannin needs to be taken seriously in your leagues. All right, I'm going to get to the rest in a moment. Let's get to some of your questions. Oh, well, look, Ted Nugent said, who's a good sleeper tight end? Obviously, I mentioned Fannin. I mentioned Okonkwo. Brenton Strange is going to certainly run all the routes in the Jacksonville offense. And if you think, the Jacksonville offense under Liam Cohen is going to be good, then Brenton Strange should be good. So definitely consider him. Maybe Mason Taylor for the Jets, although I'm not in, because it's like those guys are going to throw like 20 times a game, and 15 of them are going to go to Garrett Wilson. I just don't really know where the volume will come, for anybody else. As boring as it sounds, and I'm exposing my age and myself and my age by saying this, but I won't back down. Zach Ertz, I get it. It's so boring. Catch and fall. But here's the important thing. There is catching. In PPR, you could do way worse than Zach Ertz, who had an unbelievably good fantasy role in the Washington offense last year, and then they re-signed him. And they said, yeah, well, let's just do that again. Let's run it back. This is what my kids are telling me. Dad, let's run it back. When it comes to me pouring more cereal for them. Anyway. So, yeah, those are some we've talked about on the Rotoworld Football Show. All right, let's see. Yes. So this person here says, shout out to all those who walk or run like a duck. And Harold Fannin actually runs like a duck. Not hyperbole. I didn't make this up, obviously. But if you see highlights of him from college or, in preseason, the man runs like a duck. And here's the great thing is that he's not shy about it. And we know this because Harold Fannin's mother was at the Fantasy Football Expo. I was not there, but reportedly from people I knew on the ground, sources close to the situation said Harold Fannin's mom was at the Fantasy Football Expo in Ohio this past month. And when the duck running situation was mentioned, she began to walk like a duck and say, where do you think he learned it from? It's amazing, incredible, incredible. I wish I had this on film. When I heard this, I almost fell out of my chair. Incredible. We love Harold Fannin. We love Mrs. Fannin. All right, let's get moderator, mute him. It's still going. Whew. Here we go. All right. Yes, good afternoon to you. Any chance Terrance Ferguson, he's Rams rookie, is worth picking up in a 12-team league? Looked pretty good this past. Yeah, Terrance Ferguson does look good. Targeted on over 20% of his routes this preseason, which is solid enough. Super athletic. Unfortunately, stuck behind Tyler Higbee for the moment. I don't think it's necessary to stash Terrance Ferguson in 12-team leagues. Maybe like 14-team leagues where you're just going to be eventually desperate because of injuries and whatnot for playable options. Go ahead, maybe get him. But 12-team league, leave him on the waiver wire. Maybe aggressively pursue Ferguson if and when Tyler Higbee gets dinged up, or if the Rams finally pull the plug on this Higbee bit that they've been doing for 5 years and say, enough for this guy. We're going to the Rook. He's good, though. I do like Ferguson. It's a good call by you. All right, let's see. We're going to go to... Michael says Bucky Irving greater than Derrick Henry. I'd say maybe. I'd say probably. I mean, the thing with Henry is that like he's a machine. I'll never doubt him. He could play until he's 55 years old. I still will not write negatively or speak negatively of him. But it's just abundantly clear at this point in his long Hall of Fame career that he's not going to catch passes. That's not changing in 2025. Bucky Irving could catch a lot of passes this year. And that's a big difference in fantasy. Okay? So yeah, sure. I mean, that's how it goes, right? It's not fair, but that's how it goes. Let's see. This person says, I picked up David Montgomery in multiple mock drafts. What round should he be going in? I don't know. Like the 6th? Something like that. He's fine. He's fine. I do kind of think that the Lions might just fully commit to Jahmyr Gibbs because Gibbs, they use Gibbs as like a true lead back, like a workhorse back for the first time last season when David Montgomery missed time with an injury. And it's that thing that you see every year where when a team lets the genie out of the bottle, no one is in a rush to stuff the genie back in the bottle, right? And be like, no one saw that, right? We didn't see Jahmyr Gibbs produce at a clip that is astounding to both like real football dudes and fantasy football people. It happened with Jamal Charles. Like the Chiefs tried to keep the genie in the bottle for a long time. By the way, Jamal Charles, to my mind, the greatest running back of all time. They tried to keep him in the bottle. He got out of the bottle. They never put him back in. So it's that sort of thing. Excuse me. All right, what do we have here? Would you trade away? Trade? You guys are trading? The season hasn't started. Trade away Bucky Irving and Xavier Worthy for Puka and Omarion Hampton. No, I wouldn't do that. All right. Hey, all right. This is, you know what? This is an informational Q&A. Okay. I am going to get to more questions, but I really want to give you guys some like key takeaways from the preseason. Okay. Like that's what I want to do today. So let's go to Kansas City, where, as Kyle Dvorchak wrote in his piece today, you can find it on rotoworld.com. Chiefs rookie running back Rashard Smith, who has struggled so far in the preseason going into the Chiefs' third game. He got 2 snaps with the starters. We can work with that. It's a glimmer, is what I would say. It's a glimmer. Both of those snaps were passing plays, and Rashard Smith, who was a very productive pass catcher out of the backfield in college, he was targeted on both of those. Patrick Mahomes checks down a lot, and I actually have the numbers here. the top 5 check down quarterbacks last year were Bo Nix, not a surprise, which means Evan Ingram is honestly going to go ballistic this year. Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, Aaron Rodgers, which is interesting for Jaylen Warren, I believe. CJ Stroud. I mean, who knows? I guess Woody Marks, maybe. Gumbo Wale, I don't know. But then 6th in that order was Patrick Mahomes. So Mahomes likes to check it down. That's how they win. That's how you win Super Bowls. That's how you win MVPs. You check down. Boom, 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 boom. You move the ball 6 yards at a time. 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 8 yards, 12 yards, 2 yards, 4 yards, touchdown, MVP. That's it. And then as far as quarterbacks who don't check down, I wanted to share this information with you. Here are the bottom 5 in guys who did not check down last year. Brock Purdy, that's a function of Christian McCaffrey not being in the lineup last year for most of the season. Matthew Stafford, who has never really checked down. In fact, Stafford averaged only about 2 checkdowns per game last season. So, you know, that's part of the reason, like, Kyren Williams is kind of a meh pick. Like, he's just not going to see a ton of looks from Stafford if he plays. Sam Darnold is among those who did not check down. Drake May, Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields. And the reason why May, Justin Fields, and Lamar Jackson are in that group is because they're very mobile quarterbacks, right? And so when it's 3rd and 3, they will simply take off and get the first down with their legs rather than to check it down, you know. And you look at the guys, you know, Rodgers, Burrow. Yeah, I guess Bo Nix doesn't really belong in that category, but guys who can't do that, they will check down. So anyway, getting back to Brashard Smith, I think that he's a decent 0 RB target, although I didn't mention him in the article that's coming out tomorrow on Rotoworld. I just feel like he's kind of a low priority guy because a lot of things would have to break right for Brashard Smith to be a thing in PPR formats. If it's not PPR, I think Brashard Smith is basically useless, or he will be this season. Brian Robinson, a new 49er. He's the RB2 instantly behind Christian McCaffrey. This after I wrote up a huge thing on why Isaac Guerendo was like the key to 0 RB roster builds this season. Nevertheless, I persist. Guerendo aggravated his ongoing chronic shoulder injury the other day. Who knows when he'll be back at this point? I would be surprised if he were ready for the beginning of the season. He missed 3 weeks with the shoulder injury, came back, immediately aggravated it. So it's probably over. I'd say it's over for Guerendo. So Brian Robinson, he's just a guy, but that doesn't matter. We have to think beyond that. This is what Kyle Shanahan had to say on Brian Robinson. Quote, "We brought him here to be our number 2 back. I've always been a big fan of Brian. Loved him coming out of college. We were pumped that he was available and pumped that we were able to get him." So Brian Robinson, if you're still going to draft, you know, this weekend or whatever, has to be drafted. He's behind Christian McCaffrey, who, you know, chronically injured. He missed. He only played in 4 games last year. So I think Robinson could be a great pick, even though it certainly didn't seem that way a couple weeks ago, or even 4 days ago, with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, aka Bill, aka JCM, aka the guy who's going to go ahead of Bijan Robinson at some point this summer, after he took Brian Robinson's job as the lead back for Washington. So drop Guerendo. I mean, wait on the news a little bit, but I mean, can it get more clear than Shanahan saying we specifically acquired Brian Robinson to be our number 2 guy in the backfield? You know, there's no dancing around that. Like, Shanahan. Here's what I detected. I saw the press conference. It was a 90-second clip that I saw. And honestly, my guy Kyle Shanahan seemed kind of pissed that Isaac Guerendo is hurt again. Kyle Shanahan is a moody guy. Okay. He seemed to be in a foul mood. I mean, is he ever not in a foul mood? That is a fair question. But he seemed to be in a particularly foul mood that day during that press conference. And I'm pretty sure what it came off as is I'm dismissing Isaac Guerendo. And if Kyle Shanahan does that, then we need to listen. All right, let's get to some of your questions. I have a few more informational tidbits for you guys. We have about 25 minutes left, so get in your questions. I know you all have your drafts coming up. If not, if you haven't already drafted them, and if you already have drafted your team, you know, maybe ask about guys who may be on the waiver wire, things of that nature. All right, we're going over to Juicy. Juicy says, I have Bo Nix. They have JD. I really wish you would have spelled that out. Jaden Daniels? All right. Trade Terry McLaurin and Monty for Sutton and Chuba. What? Trade. Yeah, because so Terry McLaurin's not going to play. Courtland Sutton is the wide receiver 1 in Denver, and Chuba Hubbard's going to outscore David Montgomery. So I would do that trade. All right, let's see. Well, okay, this thing about like, why am I out on Kyren Williams? I mean, he's just not the kind of player I draft. You know, inefficient, reliant on touchdowns, reliant on massive volume, not super involved in the pass game. I mean, I know Sean McVay loves him. The Rams coaches love him, and there's something to that. But I just don't. He's just kind of invisible on the board to me. I don't really care. I don't mean to be dismissive of you, Michael. He's not the kind of player I target. All right, this person, Mr. Prime, went 0 RB and needs either Tyler Bigsby or Travis Etienne to be traded. We got that blurb up today. Or Bryce Hall to fall off the face of the earth. So Braylon Allen will become the guy in New York. What did I just do? Why did I do this to myself? You did this to yourself, Mr. Prime, because there are lots of unknown unknowns in the NFL regular season as it relates to roster moves and benchings and injuries. And a lot of that chaos will happen, and you've built a roster that will benefit from chaos. It's not a hyper fragile roster, okay? It's an anti-fragile roster. It gets better with chaos. So a star running back gets dinged up. You have his, the running back insurance behind the RB2, whatever you want to call it. Slot him in, and suddenly you have an elite running back option and 3 top, 15 wide receivers and maybe an elite tight end, right? So this is how we win, as Adam Sandler said. This is how we win. But you do have to grind. I'm not gonna lie to you, Mr. Prime. You gotta grind, and by that I mean you gotta pay close attention to the waiver wire. You gotta pick up running backs who would instantly benefit from an injury in front of them, or whose playing time is ticking upward, whose usage is improving as the weeks go on. I mean, it takes some effort. It takes some effort, but I believe in your potential. All right, this person, they clicked Jahmyr Gibbs at number 2 overall. That's fine. And then had to click T. Higgins and Bowers at the turn. I mean, you didn't have to, but that sounds like a good start to me. What's wrong with that? I can't tell. Are you complaining? It seems good. If I drop Guerendo, do we like Blue or Sampson more to win their job? So Jaydon Blue of the Cowboys hurt his ankle this past week. He will probably enter the season as RB3 at best, if not RB4 in Dallas. He has a long way to go, I would say, to being a thing. Sampson has a much more direct path to lead back duties. Kyle wrote up Sampson in that piece I mentioned. Actually, I'm gonna do some good podcasting and search. Oh, here's what Kyle wrote. So Quinshon Judkins, by the way, obviously could still be suspended. He has not signed his rookie contract. He's not even a member of the team. He's not practiced. I don't really know what's going on with Judkins, but Sampson's usage has been pretty good. So Kyle writes this: if the preseason is any indication, the guy might be fellow rookie Dyland Sampson. Neither Sampson nor Jerome Ford played a specific role in the offense in the preseason, but Sampson got the start and rotated heavily with Jerome Ford, the veteran. Sampson is a productive rookie who might be this team's back out of the gates. And as Kyle says, he is a 0 RB target. I think he's kind of essential at this point. Again, whoever gets that lead back role is going to catch a lot of passes, because something Joe Flacco does frequently is check down. And that's good for Njoku. It's good for the aforementioned Harold Fannin, and it could be good for one of these running backs. So keep an eye on all that. Let's see. I'm going back to the chat here. Jaydon Blue. You see my daughter asked, she said, on your podcast today, can you put my Bluey book up? And I said, I have no choice. You've given me no choice but to put your, what am I going to say? No? Come on. So obviously the answer is yes. Bluey, we love Bluey. I've watched more Bluey maybe than any parent in America. But maybe you would challenge that and say, no, Denny, I have, which I get. It's a lovely show. It's lovely. All right, Noah's in the chat. What are your thoughts on all the Nabers hype, given his injuries and the fact that he has one of the toughest schedules? I mean, Nabers is a target commanding machine. Do I love that he's dinged up constantly? The toe, the shoulder, the back, the this, the that. He has more physical ailments than my mom. But seems to get on the field more often than not. I know he did have the brain injury last year that kept him out a couple weeks. He seems to be recovered from that. So, yeah, I mean, don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Also, look, come on. Let's be real. We talked about this on the Rotoworld football show the other day. Let's be real about what's happening in New York. They're pretending that Russell Wilson is the unquestioned starter this season. He's not. I know it. You know it. Let's be honest with each other. Brian Daboll, join the honest circle. Join us and be honest with us. Jackson Dart is going to barge into that QB1 role. Like, it's just a matter of time. I don't know. I mean, it could happen as early as like week 3 if Russell Wilson comes out of the gate struggling. Maybe if Russell strings together a couple good games, it might happen in week 5 or 6, but it's going to happen. Jackson Dart has looked incredible. And I get it. You're going to say, oh, against plumbers in the preseason. Whatever, man. I mean, he's playing against who he's playing against. He can't control that. He's made accurate throws, both in the intermediate and deep areas. By the way, 80+% completion rate within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage in the preseason for Jackson Dart. That's so important for a guy like Malik Nabers, who feasts in that area. I think Jackson Dart could be amazing for Malik Nabers. And by the way, if you're in Superflex leagues, I feel like Jackson Dart is kind of your cheat code, because he's going to start at some point, and he has a fantasy-friendly profile in that he also runs, right? He's a little risky with his running. I would like him to not get his head taken off every time he leaves the pocket. That seemed to be the case in the preseason. So, Jackson, if you're listening, please slide. Please don't do what you're doing. Although I have heard sliding is like the #1 way to get a brain injury. So maybe don't do that either. But yeah, so in Superflex, you gotta target him as like, your QB 3 or 4, something like that. A guy who can just be thrown into your Superflex spot. Let's see. There's some Ricky Pearsall discourse in the chat. I'm not super high on Pearsall, but I mean, it doesn't matter at this point. Jawan Jennings could like be out to start the season because of his contract dispute with the Niners. There's some chatter right now, some reporting that says that Jennings might hold out into the regular season. He has not practiced at all in the preseason, or in training camp, or in the spring and early summer stuff. I mean, he just has not been around. Ayuk is out until God knows when, October, whatever. So it's just Pearsall. Oh, and Jacob Cowing, who was probably set to play a lot of snaps in this offense, tore up his hamstring the other day. And Shanahan, indicated it's a very serious injury, and he's going to be out at least 6 weeks to start the season. So Cowing's out. I don't. They're going to have Ricky Pearsall and like undrafted free agents and George Kittle. So whatever you think of Pearsall, Brock Purdy is going to have no choice but to pepper this guy with targets to start the year. He's going to be a really good value, I think, in all formats, not just PPR. So definitely consider him. Let's get to more of. Did Terry McLaurin sign? Did he sign? We're going to check rotoworld.com. Terry McLaurin agrees to a 3-year deal. After I said he's not going to play. Well, there you go. He's back. He's all the way back. So forget what I just said about Terry McLaurin. Wow, it worked. Hey, we're happy for Scary Terry. He is a major touchdown regression candidate, but he got paid, and we like to see that. So he should be drafted as a top 20-ish wide receiver, but I'm still not going to go heavy on him. I think that, just like the natural regression, I wrote about this in a piece on Rotoworld, for a guy like McLaurin, the regression is going to hit, and it's not going to be as fun. It's not going to be as fun. He was very touchdown reliant last year in a run-heavy, run-first Commanders offense. So, yes, this person says, I was reading my Bluey book instead of Rotoworld News today. You can do both, would be my answer. All right, hey, let's talk about positive rushing environments headed into the season. And by that, I mean offensive lines that create space for running backs to operate. We like that. We like that in fantasy football. I talked about this last year sometimes on my Friday Q&A, which will again be on the NFL and NBC YouTube channel, the kids are calling it, this coming year. So check that out every Friday afternoon. So a key metric that I look at is yards before contact per rush on a team level, right? This usually indicates offensive lines, like I just said, that create space for the running backs. Sometimes you can credit it to the running backs themselves, but often I do find that this correlates with rushing production and, importantly for fantasy, explosive runs, because look, not every one of our running backs is going to see 25 carries in a game. Like a lot of running backs we start, they're going to see 12 touches. They got to do something on those 12 touches. They got to bust one, right? So important, the explosive element here. The top 10 offensive lines last year in creating yards before contact, the Ravens were number 1, the Eagles number 2, not a surprise. Colts number 3. Somewhat of a surprise, I would say, and good for Jonathan Taylor. Number 4, the Cardinals. James Conner in a quietly great spot, I think, to succeed this year. The Bucks were number 6, the Packers number 7, Commanders number 8. JCM, things of that nature. He's in, being able to run behind a good offensive line, a good run blocking offensive line, alongside Jaden Daniels, who is a rushing threat in himself, and scares the crap out of opposing defenses. Sorry for the coarse language. But that is an advantage. Like a player's production, a running back's production increases when they are paired with a running quarterback. This is analytics. The Falcons are number 9. The Niners were 10th. We know that the 49ers provide a great environment for rushers. The Falcons quietly, I think, are building a great run-first offense. And it makes it very difficult for me to pass the way I draft my teams, to pass on a guy like Tyler Algier, who is set up as the clear RB2 in Atlanta. In fact, Bijan Robinson said the other day, and yes, it is Bijan. He confirmed this, not Bijan. Bijan Robinson said the other day, our backfield is a 1A, 1B situation. I mean, is that accurate? Probably not. But I'm not drafting Tyler Algier to be an every week starter this season. I'm drafting him in case Robinson misses time. And the Falcons were great at, creating yards before contact last year. They're going to run it a lot. They were super run heavy in the red zone and inside the 10. And Algier is good. I'm sorry. No matter what Rotopat says, Tyler Algier, really good converted linebacker, big boy rumbles, big boy goes boom. We like our big boy, Tyler Algier. Here are the bottom 10 teams in creating rush yards before contact. Let's see. The worst were the Patriots. They've made some upgrades to their offensive line. We'll see if that pays off this season. Second worst, Jaguars. Third worst, Titans. So, the Tony Pollard stuff I'm a little cool on, but I get it. Seahawks were the 4th worst in creating yards before contact. That'll probably improve this year because the Seahawks are so intent on establishing it. So if they could get, if they could like bump up to like the middle of the road as far as rush yards before contact, I think that could be great for Ken Walker or Zach Charbonnet. Raiders were next, and then the Chargers, Bears, Steelers, Chiefs, and Giants. The Steelers' offensive line for a couple years now has been really bad at run blocking. Caleb Johnson, I just feel like has no juice for fantasy purposes right now. You have reports of Aaron Rodgers like dressing this kid down in practice, yelling at him for running the wrong route. Imagine that. Aaron Rodgers yelling at someone for running the wrong route. It's the first time. It's not. It's not the first time. Ask Mike Williams how it goes when you run one wrong route in Aaron Rodgers' offense. And that's what it is. It's not really Arthur Smith's offense. It's Aaron Rodgers' offense. So for me, Jaylen Warren's like a slam dunk. I'm saying this knowing that Jaylen Warren really hurt fantasy managers last year and was mostly useless for fantasy, and I get that. But I'm bullish on him. Right or wrong, I am bullish on him. Let's get back to your questions. We have about 7 minutes, folks. Let's talk about this for a second. Michael says, speaking of running environments, how do we feel about Tyrone Tracy for the Giants? All right, so in case you guys missed it, because I know not everybody is grinding the news all day, every day throughout the summer, but Cam Skattebo, the rookie running back for the Giants, 4th-round pick, hurt his hamstring in late July. A beat writer for the Giants came out and said it's over. There never was a competition, but even if there was a competition, it's now over. This is a quote 100% Tyrone Tracy's backfield. I talked with a Giants beat writer, and I wrote about it for Rotoworld, who disagreed. Pat Leonard, great Giants beat writer, he said the one thing have to know about Cam Skattebo is that Brian Daboll loves the kid. And I have seen, evidence of that in press conferences with Daboll. Daboll's been, said, he provides, like Skattebo provides like the edge, like the tough running edge that we're looking for on this team and in this offense. Skattebo looked pretty good in the preseason. He was an unbelievably efficient pass catching back out of the backfield at Arizona State. I feel like he was dismissed too quickly after the hamstring injury. He does have an unfortunate history of soft tissue injuries, including hamstrings. Hopefully he can avoid that during the regular season. If he stays healthy, I like him to claim the RB1 spot for the Giants. And the vibes are going to be spectacular for Scam. We should call him Scam Skattebo because he's going to be a PPR scam. Okay, it's just going to be checking down to my guy Skattebo. I can't say it. But yeah. So I do think he's a 0 RB target. I do think Tyron Tracy is being overdrafted. Tracy, of course, struggled with fumbles last year, struggled with drop passes, was a terrible pass blocking running back. Skattebo is better, per reports, at pass protection. I'm not sure about Tracy. All right, let's see. We have a person here. I drafted Braylon Allen, Algier, and Trey Benson. I need to drop one to pick up a kicker. So you have Connor and Bijan. I mean, so here's the thing about, like, the best part about 0 RB is you're drafting other people's running back insurance options, right? But I would understand if you wanted to drop Allen and just keep Algier and Benson there. I'm not going to yell at you on air. I'll wait till I'm off air and then I'll start yelling. We have a question here from Kyle. Do I keep Josh Allen or Derrick Henry in the first and Allen? Henry in the first and Allen in the third. 12-team PPR. I would just take Josh Allen in the third. That's pretty good value. It's close though. Juicy wants to know, would the chat trade Terry McLaurin for Sutton? I mean, as part of the chat, I would say yes. The regression is going to be ugly. That's all I can say about that. Yeah, so I did thank you for mentioning this. The Falcons have a ton of injuries on their all offensive line. Yes, it's true. I wouldn't say a ton, but they have some significant injuries. It could be kind of a rough start to the season, but I don't see anything that would indicate that they won't be a run-heavy team. And they have a pretty easy schedule, being in the NFC South, playing a bunch of garbage teams. So there you go. Which wide receiver 2 would I prefer? It says Picks, Devontae, or Waddle. Pickens, maybe Pickens. Well, Pickens, yeah. I mean, I'm heavy on Pickens this year, and the reason is because the Cowboys can't stop talking about him. Pickens says, "Well, yeah, by the way, I kind of like football now that I'm out of Pittsburgh." The Cowboys are going to have no choice but to throw the ball a lot. Don't listen to anything they say, by the way, headed into the season and into early season. If Cowboys coaches are coming out saying, we're going to establish it, we're going to run the ball first and foremost, you can just let that go in one ear, out the other. It's garbage. These guys are going to have to throw a lot. The one knock on George Pickens' profile in Pittsburgh was that the Steelers never throw the ball. And when they do, they have a crappy quarterback. Try to watch my language. And you don't, guess what? You don't have a bad quarterback in Dallas. Now, I know the haters will say, oh, yeah, you do. Yeah, what about Dak Prescott? Dak Prescott's good. I'm sorry to be the one to break the news to you. Dak Prescott's really good. Really great for fantasy purposes at distributing the ball. I can envision a scenario pretty easily where CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens are top 12 receivers. My best ball bags would be happy with that scenario. All right, get in your questions. I have to go in a couple minutes here. Here's a pro tip from Neil. Neil says, don't forget about Keenan Allen in the last round of your draft, I guess. I guess. Yeah, I mean, he'll be the wide receiver 2 in LA. He'll absorb a lot of short area targets. You can't draft him in standard scoring, and you probably shouldn't draft him in half PPR, but he'll get away with it in PPR. I could see that. Let's get to this one. 6-point passing touchdown league. This person missed out on Bo Nix. Had to take Dak Prescott and Drake May late. Please help me feel better about this. You should feel good about this. Honestly, what's wrong with that? We like Dak. Drake may give you the rushing stuff. It's all good. You're fine. You're fine. I hope I made you feel a little better. All right, folks, that'll do it for this Fantasy Football Q&A. Be sure to check out the Rotoworld Football Show throughout the season. You can find that wherever podcasts are sold and on the NFL and NBC YouTube channel. You can find all my work on Rotoworld. And good luck to you and only you in your upcoming fantasy drafts.